Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon of the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service, JBizTechPhilly.com, and now columnist for the Jewish Press.
I have a column in there called Albany Beat, where I talk about how government relates to the Jewish community, or doesn't, as the case may be. Talking about government, I have one of my favorite Assemblywomen here, Sandy Galef from Westchester County. Welcome to the Jewish View.
It's great to be here. This is my first time. Thank you very much for having me.
It's been long overdue. You represent an area in Westchester County that's kind of prominent in some ways and not so prominent in others. You live in Ossining.
I live in Ossining, actually where Sing Sing prison is, which we are trying to develop in, not the prison itself, but we're trying to get a Sing Sing historic museum to talk about the penal system over hundreds of years in our country as well as in our state. So I have that.
I have a friend who lives in Ossining, and I tell him, oh, they let you out of prison, because I just think of Ossining and the whole town as being in prison,
but it's not. It's
right on the water.
Right.
So they really have a nice view, don't they?
We had a politician here, and they actually said that they were thinking about having Sing Sing turn into condos,
Right.
I mean, it's really right on the water,
right.
So it really has a nice view.
It's a beautiful part of the river. My district actually goes from Briarcliff, Ossining, Cortland, Peekskill, and up into Putnam County too, up into Cold Spring Garrison and Nelsonville and part of Phillipston. And then I have Kent, which is not on the river. But the river is so beautiful. But the river way back when was the commerce. And so what happened is you had all the factories being built there, and you also had the prison. It was up the river. New York City sent their prisoners up as well as other people. And the fascinating thing about Sing Sing is the prisoners built their own cells, out of Sing Sing marble. I mean, it's amazing that we could do that. I don't think you could do that now with the laws saying to prisoners, okay, you got to build your cell. But they did back then. It is a very safe community to live in. But the fact that it takes up such a large...
So many correctional officers around. So.
Well, no, it just, that they haven't really had problems at Sing Sing. I've been in and out of the facility many times.
Since
right.
Governor Cuomo, Mario Cuomo, was in office for like 2 months, and then there was that uprising.
Right, and that happens every once in a while. But to tell you the truth, if anybody was to escape, they're going to go far away. They don't stay right around the corner. So, but it used to be that many people that lived in Ossining also worked at the prison. But now, when I go into the city on the railroad in the morning, you see how many officers are coming in from New York City to work at Sing Sing. They come in by train. They just walk to the prison and do their work and protect us against people that have not done the right thing. So, but we're hoping really that with a museum that can be developed right at the powerhouse, it's right outside the prison. It's really prison property, it's state property, but it's right outside the gates. So you wouldn't be intruding, obviously, with the prisoners. But there is an old cell block, an 1825 cell block that had a fire, so that the roof is off. But the structure itself is so fascinating, and we hope that some of that will be a part of this museum. It's very complicated because the railroad, MTA, goes right through the prison, and of course you have sometimes 2,000 prisoners there, and the main function of the prison is to be a prison. And so we have to kind of work around this as we're dealing with all these issues. But Babe Ruth played baseball right there in the field. Warner Brothers built kind of a stage that they could use. A lot of films have been made at Sing Sing. And, everywhere you go in the world, when I say I'm from Ossining, I say, have you ever heard of Sing Sing? And almost everybody's heard of Sing Sing. So,
but, because it is a state facilities, maybe they should downsize, and you wouldn't want that. Propose that, or just
Well-
taking it down, not taking it down, but
Closing it, you don't want to.
Close.
Right. I've actually called for it to be closed.
Oh,
I've
really?
actually called when we were closing upstate prisons, and I could see that my colleagues really wanted to retain their prisons there. It meant a lot of jobs for them in the area, and as I said, it's not a lot of jobs for the people that live in my community any longer, so it's very different. But it is a maximum facility prison, and we don't have a lot of them. It is close to New York City, and there is value, as much as I'd like it to be someplace else, because there's so much value to the Hudson River. But for many people, it's a way for their families to come up and visit. And if we want to be sure that we're not reincarcerating people again, we have to develop that family dynamic, and that's really important.
Now, you also come from Wisconsin originally. You were born and raised, or just born?
I was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin, lived in a few communities. My parents moved around a lot and rented places, and then we finally moved to Mamaroneck in Westchester County when I was 4, so basically lived in New York
So
all
there's
my life.
another assemblyman, Chuck Levine,
Yes.
who's from Wisconsin as well.
Right, yes, we talk about
You
the
do
fact
talk
that we
about-
too, yes.
Are you the only two Wisconsiners?
Well, we haven't checked
Oh,
with
you
our other
haven't
colleagues,
checked,
but
okay.
I have a feeling that we might be
not
the
too
only
many
two.
Wisconsin people. I'm from Chicago, and people say Chicago, like everybody usually goes east to west in the
Right,
United States.
right.
They don't go, well, what are you
Right.
coming here for?
Very,
Right.
very true.
And now, there's one of the bills that you have floating around, I don't know how far it's gotten. You want to rename the Tappan Zee Bridge? You want
Yes,
to take
yes.
the moniker of Malcolm Wilson off the Tappan Zee Bridge and call it the Purple, or did you want to call it the Purple Heart Governor Malcolm Wilson?
Well, the Purple Heart veterans very much would like to have a naming opportunity at the bridge. Now, remember, there are really 2 bridges. It's not going to be one anymore. There are really 2. There's
Span.
actually a split
Oh.
between them.
So
So
one
you
span
could.
be called one and one
You
span
could
be
do
called the other?
one of each. Yes, you really could. So I think it's an uphill battle, because once you've named something for a political person or a celebrity of some sort, it's very hard to make those changes. But I think, recognizing our veterans and people that were wounded as they fought for us, I think is very appropriate.
Well, we got
But
a
again,
lot-
I don't know that it's going to happen. That's a long shot.
We have a lot of Purple Heart highways throughout
We
the
do,
state.
we do.
So they're not satisfied with that.
I don't know of any bridges. Do we
Okay.
know of any bridges? I don't know.
Maybe one over the Taconic could
Right.
be named.
Right.
Actually, my
So-
daughter looked up, she went, when we go to Crown Heights, of course, LaBage, we live here in the Albany Capital District, we go to Crown Heights, so we go through the Tappan Zee Bridge a lot. She says, well, what kind of name is that? I said, well, it must be some Indian name,
Yeah,
because either it's
Tappan.
Dutch or it's,
The-
Indian
Right.
around here. So she looked it up, Z meant a bridge or
The
something.
the Tappan Indians,
Yeah.
and Z means bridge. in-
Bridge, yeah.
It's in their
Right.
language, so.
It's very hard when you change names of bridges. We've been doing that lately around the city, and I'm not sure that everybody remembers what they've been named. So,
Right, the Koch 59th
right,
Street Bridge.
right.
And the,
we have
Hugh Carey,
we have the
Brooklyn
Kennedy,
Battery
Robert
Tunnel.
Kennedy
Robert
Yeah,
Kennedy.
Bridge.
Jackie Robinson is not a
Right.
bridge, but it's a
It's a
highway.
highway. yeah.
Highway, right?
You also have, well, on your committee assignments, you don't mention that you're a member of the Jewish Legislators Association. Are you a member of the Jewish Legislators
I don't know whether I
Association?
am right now. I have no
Okay.
idea. I've gone to some of their meetings, but I have no.
Okay.
I don't even know that on my. We just really usually put committees.
Right, but sometimes they
our-
put the Black Puerto Rican
Right.
Legislative Caucus.
I probably don't have that on
No.
either, and I do represent people that are
Of that.
right,
yeah,
right,
denominated,
background,
okay.
yes, right.
What's your background? What's your ethnic or religious background?
Well, my father was a Quaker.
Uh-huh.
My mom was Methodist, and I became a Congregationalist, and I married my husband who was Jewish, and so we raised our children Jewish. I would never converted, but we raised our children Jewish, and now one of my son married someone that was Jewish, and they just had a bar mitzvah for my grandson, and my other daughter married somebody who was Catholic. but not practicing Catholic. So we
So
celebrate.
you're United Nations over
We
here in the
are a
family.
United Nations,
Yeah.
and I always felt very, very strongly. I was actually the president of the evening section of the National Council of Jewish Women because I wanted people to know that if you're Jewish, you should be also for others. And then I was in the Junior League, who didn't have many Jewish members, and I wanted to be there to talk about how you have to recognize Jewish members of our communities. And so I tried my hardest as a person, you know, with many faiths, I guess, trying to pull people together. And I found it very successful.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a challenge to me because so often when I started out, not before politics, actually, when I moved back here, you know, everybody seemed to be parceled out in their own sphere.
Yes.
And I
should
just
all-
didn't quite believe in that, so.
I wanted to also, mention, you like the letter G, don't you? Because your son is Greg,
Right.
Graig, and your
Right.
daughter's Gwen.
Right.
So their initials are GG.
Well, let me tell you about all that.
Yeah, okay.
Greg was Gregory, and there was a family name way back with Gregory, but he spelled Graig, which Greg Nettles,
Yeah.
baseball player,
Third
Yankee,
base.
yes, was spelled Graig. So that's why he changed his own name, because he liked it. My daughter Gwen, who's Gwendolyn, I had always wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be like Gwen Verdon.
Mhm.
So I love dancing. I love Gwen Verdon. So my daughter became a Gwen. And my daughter loves dancing. And we just went to a Broadway show on Mother's Day. And so, you know, musical. So we love it. Yeah.
Well, you're aging more gracefully than Gwen Verdon, if I have to say.
Oh.
So you're about maybe the same age. But anyway, you have, I want to bring this up gently, but there was Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. He was up in Albany recently, and he said that the members of the Assembly, the rank and file members, were enablers to let the corruption with Shelley Silver happen. Do you feel like you were an enabler?
Absolutely not. First of all, you know, we don't know everything about an individual. We work with everybody. I was actually in an attempted coup to change Shelley Silver and not have him as speaker, but my issue at that point was about reforming the legislature, making it much more open, much more transparent. And actually, after that coup in the year 2000, Speaker Silver did open up the process. And so I really felt that I was much more of a participatory part of being in the Assembly. But we don't know what people do in their business outside of being in Albany. Senator Vinnie Leibel was a senator from the Putnam area in Westchester. And we went to almost every dinner together and everything. We were always together at events. We worked on bills together. I never would have known what he would decide to do. So, you know, if
He spent time in prison.
Yes. If somebody knows, then they need to go and tell the authorities or somebody that can look into it. But, you know, it's not like we investigate everybody's ethics statements that we put in May. I mean, I've never looked at somebody else's. I know what mine is. I know the press looks at it, and probably political people do. I'm a very unexciting person. I do this full time, and you know, don't have a lot of
And no outside income.
no outside income to report or anything like that. So it becomes very easy. But no, I think he's wrong in that perspective that we should know. Once we did know, we did take action.
But you only knew because of Preet Bharara
absolutely,
exposing it.
absolutely, right.
Well, I agree with you on that one because, you know, I was friends obviously with Sheldon Silver. He was an Orthodox Jew and, you know, took a lot of pictures with him. We had a lot of events. And, oh, Rabbi, your friend, you know. I'm a rabbi. I'm not a detective, you know.
Right,
I mean, to me, he was a friend. He did favors. He was an Orthodox Jew. put it like this, I'm supposed to investigate every person that I meet, you know, I just take at face value, they was a nice guy, so.
I'm glad
Right.
you're not investigating everyone. Thank you.
Right. No, you know, and that's really true. But sometimes the public will say, well, why do you have that person as a colleague? And I will go back to the people I represent and say, well, you know, there are something called elections, and there are people on the ballot. And you also have to make decisions about who you think will be the best representative for you. And, you know, but so they get mad at us sometimes when we don't have the best person in the job.
Are you in favor of term limits?
I am not. Well, I think it would be hypocritical if I said term limits because I've been here for like 24 years. No, I haven't been, but I do want competitive elections. And most often I do have an opponent. And I really am a strong believer in the public financing system because I think you get more people to run for office if they are given some assist with public dollars. And I think at the end of the day, the public dollars will keep the large amounts of money out of things.
And what about the pensions, the public pensions going to someone who's been convicted of
I
felony?
don't think they should. I don't think they should.
And what they did with Shelley was that they calculated what his pension would be, and they fined him that amount.
Right. So it's as
And
if they took it away.
Yeah, as if they took it away. You know.
Right. I think you have an obligation, especially as an elected official. I mean, we have to be beyond reproach. We just, if you want to go into politics, you have to know that everything you do could be on the front page of the paper. And you always have to say to yourself, if I'm doing this, what would it look like on the front page of the paper? And if you don't think it would look good or there are a lot of questions, just don't do it.
I don't send an email that, every email I send, I think about it being on the front page of the New York Times.
Right.
And if I wouldn't like it to be on the front page of the New York
Just
Times,
don't
I
send
would
it.
send it.
Pick up the phone.
Everything verbal, you know? And then you got to worry about who's recording, you know, like Nelson Castro.
Right,
It's like-
right. Also, the other thing about term limits is, okay, so you spin people out after 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, look at the staff that we have
Right.
in the Assembly or the Senate. Well, they're not going to be term limited, so they're going to have even more power, have more knowledge. It takes a while to build up some knowledge in this field. I'm real property tax chair, and I have to tell you, very complicated committee. And, you know, it took me a while to kind of get into it, understand it. I always have something new to learn. But, you know, so if I weren't there, the staff would basically run the committee, I'm
So
sure.
How high are the real property taxes in reality? Are we really too high? Do we have property taxes that are really too high?
Well, I think over time, they've really grown. I think, you know, we talked about when I moved here to New York, I'm sure that the people were saying, even then, our taxes are higher in New York than they were in Illinois or they were in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So we've always had higher taxes, but we've also always put more money into our educational system than a lot of
Social
other
services.
states. And
Social services?
social services, we have done that too. Not that other places haven't,
Well,
but
we
we've
have the
been.
Cadillac of Medicaid.
We have been
Yeah.
kinder, gentler to people. We've also helped people that are older, and we're
Right.
not, you know, looking back to have people spend down as fast, which other states have done. So I can't say well, we have great public transportation, but, and other states don't have that, you know, they don't have a subway system like we have. So, and that's really very expensive.
You're on 5 committees. Like you said, you're chair of the Real Property Taxation Committee. You're a member of the Corporations, Authorities, and Commissions Committee.
That's one committee.
Election Law Committee.
Right.
Government Operations.
Right,
Health Committee, which is a
Right.
prestigious committee. And
Right.
the Legislative Women's Caucus.
right, right.
So, the Legislative Women's Caucus. So I think
Okay.
that's a niche group that, you know.
It is, and we come and go with our influence, I must say. Some years we have more.
Well, there are more women in the Assembly now than ever before.
Absolutely.
And women are still saying it's not enough. We got to have 51% or 52% of the
Right.
Assembly.
I think we're probably at 27, 28% right now. I don't know. So, yes, we have a belief that we need to go further, and that is happening. I think people are feeling much more comfortable about electing women. I got elected in 1992 1962, which was kind of the year of the woman. And in Westchester County, of the seven, I think it was 7 assembly members,
Right.
4 were women at that point, which was almost amazing. Everybody looked around and said, "What happened here?" So yes, we're working on issues that are really family issues. This
Okay.
year, we're trying to target childcare and issues that families have that need to work, but also have a good place for their
At
children.
the same time, we have the fewest number of Jewish lawmakers than we've had in a long time.
Is that true?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm keeping track of that. So,
Okay.
Along with the seniority
Okay.
thing we were talking about before, you're pretty senior up in the assembly.
Right, yes. I can't remember. My license plate says 29, but
And
I think
your
I'm,
age.
I think, right, that's my age. But then I think I'm a little bit, I think I'm more like about 19. So I've been there for 24 years. And people will say, when you get into the term limit thing, although, I kind of counter that, but everybody else, there is a churning of people. I have to look around and say, oh, I have another new colleague. And
Well, in 6 years, that place has turned, probably 50% of the place has
Right.
turned over.
Yes, it really has. And, some people go off to do, have a role in other governments,
Right.
the county governments, back to the city, because it actually.
City council pays more and you don't have to travel as
Right,
much.
right. And the city council has term limits, so then city council members come up to us.
Well, like the
It's
weapons.
back and forth,
like the
right.
weapons have switched, yeah.
Right. So it's back and forth, but, it's, so I think you really need people that have institutional knowledge, and then you need new people that have just new ideas. I think the balance is really, what is so helpful for
So do you
everybody.
think there's a good balance now?
I tend to think so. Yeah, I tend to think
You're
there's
not
a really good
looking at
balance.
the other 18 before, who have more senior and trying to bump them off? No, I'm just
No,
You're not
no.
that competitive.
Absolutely
No.
not, absolutely not. And as you said, the health committee is a very important one, and
Yes,
Dick
it is.
Godfrey
I know. We
just
had him on the
does,
show.
he does a great job, and there's so many issues
Mm-hmm.
in the field of healthcare, and they keep changing all the time. There's always something
What's
new
your
that's coming
passion on
along.
that committee? What's your passionate issue?
Well, I've had some bills in, but I don't always, I'm pushing an issue. I think the whole smoking issue has been something that I've really cared about when I was on the county board of
The
legislation.
e-cigarettes now, that's become a big issue.
Yes, it has. And we just had recently somebody from New York, lighting up or putting something together with their e-cigarette and having a fire, I guess, on the floor with it, and then, having it go back into their throat and burn them. So that is an issue. It's Linda Rosenthal's bill. I was actually going to put it in before she did, but then I decided let her do this. But those are some passionate issues for me. And I think one of the issues too is when I used to smoke as a kid, and that was before the Surgeon General came out and said, this is really bad for you. And I know how hard it was for me to stop. And so I guess I'm so emotional about it because I want people to never begin, because it's so much easier than having to stop. And also nutrition has been one of my issues, but I was really fighting for vending machines in our schools to have good food in and
Yeah.
everything, and then came along Michelle Obama, who, as the First Lady, took that on as her issue. And so actually a lot of things have changed just because the White House is involved.
Did you know that on the second floor, the executive floor, the governor's offices are, that there's a healthy food vending machine?
Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't been there
See, they
looking on
hide
the
it.
second floor.
They
hide it?
They hide
Okay.
it. It's all the way in the back.
Uh-huh.
I was just walking around one day and I saw this. I got to show it to you. But it's right by the $1 million staircase and
Right.
the second floor over there. So,
Right. Okay, that's good. That's
I-
So
good.
they're healthy on the second floor,
I
you want to
guess,
say, Mark?
On the, as far as government operations, are you in favor of big government? I know you're in favor of good government, but
Right,
big
right.
government, smaller government, abolishing committees,
Oh, I guess I'm a little bit of, I guess I'm a moderate. I have worked very hard over a number of years to consolidate services, and that goes back to your early question about our high property taxes. And so we actually had a bill that combined the two courts in Ossining. So we used to have a village court, justice court, and we had a town justice court. We've combined the two. Now we have one court.
Called?
And it's called the Ossining Town Court.
Oh, so the town went out to have
The
the name.
town won out, yes. But you know what, it didn't really matter because people, just, it's Ossining. But it's been a
isn't
way
it-
to coordinate services. I think we're getting better justice and we're saving money at
But
the same time.
isn't it a matter of where the fines and the penalties go, whether it goes to the village or the town?
Right,
and
we had to work that
they
out.
all work that
Right,
out?
we had
They
to
play
work
nice
that
in the
out.
sandbox?
Yes,
Okay.
well, most times they did, that was a part of the contract, but also in Ossining, and Ossining was a wonderful example, maybe because I've infected some of them with this whole issue of consolidation and corporation, which was Tom Swazi's issue a long time ago when he had a panel. He said, put a tax cap on and then, do consolidation and do circuit breakers. So he was into all those different things, which have been my issues too. But we were able to get rid of the town police in Ossining. And the first go-round, they contracted with the county to do the policing for the town. And then this last time around, after I think it was 4 years, they contracted now with the village of Ossining to do the policing because they got a better deal. So they just go where the deal is better and they're still getting great policing and it works out fine. So I think we have to look at our state. We're a state that has more municipal entities than probably any other state. And school districts. I taught in a school district in Albemarle County, Virginia, outside of Charlottesville, University of Virginia. And we have county districts all over Virginia and Maryland and other places. And you know what? The kids are smart. The kids still learn.
Right.
You just have your administration in a larger way. And so that's probably, in a sense, larger government, but I think it shrinks the cost of government at the same time.
And you want to establish an independent budget office?
Yes.
Why? What's wrong with this governor's budget office and then the legislature?
Well, I'm not talking
has
about the
their own?
governor. Yeah, I'm not talking
No,
about the governor, but
and
just.
the legislature has their own
Right,
budget.
right.
Yeah.
Well, what we have is in Washington, you have a separate financial budget office that works with which works with the House of Representatives and the Senate on trying to negotiate what's going on. What happens in Albany is, yes, we have a Ways and Means Committee. It's a
Right.
budget committee.
And the Senate has the
And
finance
the Senate
committee.
has the finance.
And
but-
then we have the comptroller's office, which
Right.
certifies the budget.
Right, but I'm just talking about between our two houses. Downsize each of those
Okay.
that we're talking about and create one that's really just looking at, so if you look at a bill and say, how much is that going to cost us? Instead of having one take from the Assembly, one take from the Senate, okay, you follow what the independent budget office says it will cost.
And that would be made up of both Democrats and Republicans
Right,
evenly.
yes, I'm not trying to create more people. I would say,
Okay.
take away some of the people from the Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committee and put it into
Is
one.
that going as far as the Purple Heart Bridge?
This is not going very far, but I've had discussions about it, and
Okay.
other states have done it. No, and actually New York City has it. You know what? I have lots of reform bills, and people are they'll catch up with me at some point. I'm into this whole thing, Pete Barara has told us we need to make a lot of ethical changes.
Right.
We need to do that. No more pay to play. I have bills on that. I have bills to separate your lobbyists from your consultants. I mean, it's not right that a consultant can run my campaign, get me elected, and then the next day come to me as a lobbyist and want me to do something. I mean, there's no division here, and we need to really correct that. I hate these Albany fundraisers that are up here where the lobbyists go around with all this money and you watch them hand out a check for 200 and 500 and
That's
1,000.
right. And they
And
don't
we're
even
right in
stay.
session.
They
We're
don't-
right in session.
Oh, okay.
They don't even stay.
They don't stay for the food.
Well, they
They
don't
just
want to
drop the
come.
check
They
off.
don't really want to
No,
come.
they really don't.
They
And-
really don't want to
And
come.
that's why when I go, they say, oh, come on in, because we don't want to get rid of, we don't want to have this food go to waste, so.
Right,
So I
right,
go for the carrots, celery.
right. And it's true, but do we need that? We don't really need to have that happening. If
No,
somebody
you're
wants to
right.
have a party, have it outside the Capitol,
At the
have some
Fort Orange
division.
Club. At the Fort Orange Club.
No, No, not
That's
up
a-
here, not up
Oh,
here.
you're talking
Don't do
about
it down here.
outside- oh,
Go down to your
outside of the-
district. You can
Oh.
invite the lobbyists if you want to your district. And if they just want to give money, they can give money. But you don't have to, I mean, it's so visible here. You can see the lineup sometimes
Yeah.
of the lobbyists going in, and you say, so what does everybody want? Well, there's a bill here, bill there, whatever. I mean, we've got to make some changes here. And until we do that, we're going to have the things that are going on. I remember one of my colleagues who did also go to jail. He said in one of the major papers that, of course I got money to put a bill in. They all do it. And I read that and I said, no, they don't all do that. That is not, that's not what you're here for, to get paid to put a bill in. And such a misconception, so
Well,
I'm.
Anthony Seminario was getting paid for
Right.
just showing people around.
Right, yeah, right, well, you know what happened to him,
Yeah,
so.
well, yeah.
So we have to have, I mean, there, again, it's about ethics training that is so important, and people have to pay attention. And unfortunately, I've sat next to some of the people that are now in jail or going to jail that did not pay attention as we were being trained and having a discussion about what is appropriate and what is not.
You got to have some of that dust that's protecting you and making you so good move over to the chairs around you, too.
Well, it's back to, do you really, if somebody knew about that contract, would they want it on the front page?
Yeah.
It's so simple.
It
It
is.
really is simple, yeah,
No,
yeah.
This is great.
Assemblyman, that you're doing such a great job for so many years, and you have so many good years ahead of you. Like Mark says, you're 29, so
Right,
keep on going
right.
and be successful with good health. Continue
Thank you.
on.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Continued success. On the final panel.